Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another live episode of Let's Talk on your favorite channel, Huda TV. I'm your host, Arkham Rashid. This episode is dedicated to all of those around the world that have special needs, whether it be mental illness or it be a physical sort of special need. We want to raise awareness, and especially amongst the Muslims around the world, because many times in Muslim countries you see that there are no there are no sort of facilities, we can say, for these people. I mean, many times you go into malls in Muslim countries and you find there's nothing there for handicapped people. In schools you can find that there are no programs specialized for those children who need extra help. So this is a very special episode in which we want to raise awareness about these type of individuals. Let's start off by welcoming and introducing our panel for today. On my right hand side, sir, if you can give us your name, where you're from, and a little bit about yourself, go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Yusuf Korma. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'm a writer, author, activist, and student of knowledge.
All right, Yusuf, welcome back to the show. We had you on our panel for the last 2 weeks on Let's Talk, and we had wonderful conversations with you, so I'm looking forward to this.
The pleasure is all mine.
Brother, next name, if you can give us your name, where you're from, and a little bit about yourself, go ahead.
My name is Idris. I'm from the States, from Washington, D.C., Maryland area. And I'm here teaching English and mostly studying Arabic and memorizing Quran.
All right, welcome to the show, Idris. You're with us usually all the time. I mean, I said it many times before, I can introduce you myself, but you know, just going with the
Always a pleasure to come.
All right, once again, welcome to the show. If I can come over to this side, brother, if you can give us your name, where you're from, and a little bit about yourself, go ahead.
Okay, sure. I'm Wael Wahba, I'm a CPA, and this is the second time for me on the show. And last time I had a great experience. I'm looking forward to this participation. I was born in the States, grew up in Egypt, and then went back and forth to the States and then to Egypt.
Egypt, all right. And Wael, which place do you like better, the States or Egypt?
Every place has its beauty.
All right, that's a smart answer there. All right, Wael, welcome to this panel.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Thanks.
Brother, next name, if you can give us your name, where you're from, and a little bit about yourself, go ahead.
I'm Omar Khalid. I'm an Egyptian citizen. I work in writing scripts for TV programs and in translation.
All right, Omar, once again, welcome to the show. We have you on many times, and you know,
it's
we
my
enjoy
pleasure
the
and
conversation
honor.
with you here. So let's start off. I mean, since this episode is a general episode about anybody with special needs, whether they be, like we said, a mental sort of issue that they're having or a physical issue. So if each one of you guys can just give us a little general idea about special needs, that would be good. If I can start with Yusuf here, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Special needs is inclusive of, but not limited to, individuals who require assistance with disabilities concerning physical, mental, or medical. So either those three categories, if someone has challenges in those categories, they'll be considered someone with special needs that needs a special amount of assistance in dealing with those that particular disability.
Okay, that's a very good overall view of what special needs is. Idris, if I can come to you, what's your thoughts?
I would say he answered it pretty much well, but to give some more details, it would be inclusive of things such as something as small as ADHD would be considered, or as grand as something mental retardation or Down syndrome. As far as physical, that things that are done physically. Also, other things is like you said, maybe someone has lost a leg or don't have an arm, they would need assistance. So it's a pretty big, wide variety of things that would include it in this.
Okay, I'm going to come over to this side. Wael, what's your thoughts on this? Can you give us some ideas of?
Actually, this is an important topic. I mean, as far as the number of the disabled people or people with special needs worldwide, I just want to share the numbers published by the United Nations, like in late 2015. Over 1 billion people suffer from either a disability or a special need thing. This adds up to 15%, almost 15%, a little bit over 15% of the world population. More than 350 million from the 1 billion does not have access, like Brother Arkham said, access to like special needs facilities. Some countries are really have high numbers of special needs people. For instance, the US have more than 54 million special needs. India has more than 90 million special needs. Egypt has more than 7 million. Bangladesh more than 8.8 million. Pakistan 17 million. There is another research which shows that in any given country, there are almost 25% of any given population of any country somehow deals with a person with a special needs.
And that's very interesting because they're a huge population of, whether it be the Muslim Ummah or just generally humans in around the world, there's a large portion of people that need assistance, like you mentioned. And the question is, what are we doing to help them? I mean, this show it would never do justice to even raising awareness of those with special needs. But it's a start. At least we can do whatever we can and reach out to whoever we can, so that individuals from across the globe can take an initiative to start some sort of program for anybody that has special needs. Umar, I'm going to come over to you. What's your thoughts on this? Just give us a general idea before we get into our conversation.
I just want humbly to take it from a different perspective.
Sure, of
like
course.
dealing with people who have real, especially needs, not to focus on what they can't do, because this is a mistake so many people do. And that is frustrating for the kid and for the family, because they try to fix one thing, and if it is not fixed, like if they have ADHD, like my brother said, maybe it is like it's so weak for him to understand inside the class, and he makes lots of noise and he cannot concentrate. His attention span or her attention span is not too long, but he can focus or she can focus on other things. So why you just focus, we want to fix it, or else he's not normal, he's abnormal, or she is abnormal, and we leave other things that they may actually be intelligent in.
Yeah.
And maybe they are best in these things if compared with even us, between brackets, they call us normal people. But I think that everyone is normal because Allah created us with a balance. So if I'm not strong in something, I have another skill.
Yeah, that's a very good point you raised. And we find this especially amongst children that, and I don't know why this is so common in the Muslim world, that some people even deny the fact that a student has these issues. They just be like, oh, this person is not paying attention in class.
Sure.
Or why does the student, the student needs a beating, that's what he needs. That's not, I mean, not every single person is supposed to get, an A+ in math.
Yes.
Or not everybody is an excellent reader. Everybody has a different set of skills, like you said, and we don't focus on the set of skills that this child has. And that's what we want to do. We want to raise awareness so that people start these initiatives that, for example, in a school, there might be a sector dedicated to these children that they can focus on what they're good at instead of what we want them to be good at. Because like you said, everybody has a different set of skills.
Sure.
What I want to do now is, obviously, we want to reach out to the Ummah and to the Muslims around the world. So with that being said, we need examples from, the life of the Prophet ﷺ or the companions or any of the prophets of how they dealt with, because we know that these are the best examples for mankind. The Prophet ﷺ was the best example. The other prophets that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent, these were examples for us to follow. So how did they deal with people who had special needs, whether it be physical, whether it be mental, whatever it may be? How did they deal with these individuals? If I can start with you, Yusuf, if you can share an example or something you have in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Bismillah. The first thing is to know that there's always room for improvement. And we have that with an example of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and how he dealt with one of the companions, Ibn Maktoum, who was a blind man. He was sitting in a gathering with the Quraysh, and the chiefs of the Quraysh, the people that were the most prominent in trying to disenfranchise Islam at the time. So he was sitting in a very important meeting with them, and he was talking to them. And some of the scholars even say that they were even at a point where they seemed that though they were going to come to an agreement to something. And here comes a blind man, Ibn Maktoum. He comes in and with his stick, he's walking in the masjid, and he's asking the Prophet ﷺ for guidance. And the Prophet ﷺ, as is mentioned, he turns his face away and he frowns, being upset that this individual is interrupting. The etiquettes of someone talking in a room when someone is individual talking, you wait your turn. So the Prophet ﷺ was so engaged and so intrigued in trying to get these individuals to come over that he was a bit upset that someone was interrupting. So what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do? He sent this ayah down from the sama. And it shows that the pertinence of someone with special needs, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala defended him even in reference to our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, that up until this day, we have that example as someone with special needs should not be looked over, should not be shunned. And even the Prophet ﷺ was the best of examples. So if the Prophet ﷺ could had room for growth, room for improvement in this particular area in terms of just being upset at someone, then what about us? So we need to look at our own selves. If we have individuals in our own families with special needs and people that need some attention, we should be a bit more patient and a bit more understanding of their condition.
That's a very good example that you gave, and it's mentioned in the Quran, the verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about this individual and the story itself. So for those of you that want to look into the story, they can find the surah. It's Abasa wa Tawalla, and look into it and read about it and read the tafsir about it and read into the story. It's a wonderful story. Idris, I'm going to come over to you if you can share an example with us as well, inshallah.
Yeah, okay, I have another example, but I also wanted to add on to his example.
Of course you can, yeah.
Also, that if you actually pay attention to this story, the amazing thing about the story is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only mentions that he's blind, not to point out that he's blind, not to make it an issue that he's blind, but the fact that someone came to him for help and he sent him away. So it really shows us, and also that we don't find tons of material specifically towards this topic in Islam, because Islam treats them as normal. We don't have like this, signified or focus on them, because our view should be they're not different. They just have differences that are different than us, but not different in the sense where they need to be treated differently. So you'll find that this is the overall attitude that when you go through the Quran and Sunnah, is that you don't treat them differently. Don't focus, like the brother said, don't focus on the disability of the person. Provide them, help for them, but don't focus on it. But the story that I have also has to do with the woman who came to the Prophet ﷺ, and she asked for help. She used to have epileptic seizures. And she asked for him to make dua because she was worried that when she had the seizures, parts of her body would be exposed, and she was worried that a non-mahram man would see her and she would be embarrassed. And so she asked, can you help cure me? What can you do? And the Rasul also told her, I can make dua for you and ask you to be cured, or you can be patient and Jannah will be yours. So he gave her the option, I can make dua and ask for you to be cured so that it goes away. Or you can be patient and Jannah is yours for dealing with this problem you're having. So she told him, I'll be patient, because she preferred Jannah over this affliction that Allah had given her for whatever reason. And she said, I'll be patient, but do me a favor and make dua that when it happens, that I'm not exposed, my body isn't exposed to people who are not mahram for me. So it shows us a lot, there's a wealth of knowledge in this one hadith that we can talk forever and make a whole show about, but just generally speaking, it shows us that we need to show them that be patient with what you're going through and don't focus on it. This is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for whatever reason, and be patient with it.
And I mean, it's another point from that hadith that we can take is that sometimes these are tests from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to see how we react and how we deal with these issues. Not only for the person facing the issues, but those around them. How did you treat this person? We know the hadith where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tell a person, I was hungry and I asked you for food and you didn't give me. It's a very famous hadith. So in the same way, we can say that these are tests and challenges that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala set out for us as well. What did you do to help that person that needed assistance? You were the construction manager, or you had the right to petition an elevator in the mall, or you had the right to petition an elevator in a hospital. Did you do that? I needed assistance. Did you help me? That's the idea from the hadith. Wa'il, I'm going to come over to you. What examples or what stories can you
Actually,
give us?
I have some stories in mind, but I'll take the Jalaybib companion story because the story has a lot of meanings in how the Prophet ﷺ tried to engage him within the society. Jalaybib was from the Ansar, and Jalaybib, like his family or lineage, was not known. So back then, this is something serious. On top of that, he was not handsome, he was ugly, short, tiny, and has some kind of deformation. So most of the people in Medina like tried to refrain from him and not really get engaged with him. And he tried to approach more than one girl to get married, but they didn't approve that. So the Prophet ﷺ went to a family. I have two stops here, one for his marriage and one for his death. So regarding his marriage, the Prophet ﷺ, went to a family. They had a beautiful daughter, and the Prophet ﷺ asked them if Julaybib can marry their daughter. So the parents were somehow reluctant, but the daughter actually, she approved it right away, since it's a recommendation from the Prophet ﷺ. And then it turns to be a very successful marriage, and they lived happily ever after. And then this was the first engagement of the Prophet ﷺ, made efforts to make sure that Julaybib is not outcasted from the society. The other stop is, during an expedition or a battle where the companions were involved, the Prophet ﷺ and Julaybib. So after the battle, the Prophet ﷺ started to ask, how many companions did we lose? So they started to give him a list of the companions who passed away. And, nobody gave him something about Julaybib. So he asked, where is Julaybib? So he asked them to go and recheck the battlefield. They did, and they went and they checked the battlefield, and they found his body next to 7 bodies of al-mushrikeen, or the enemies. So they went back and told the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ got up, and he actually walked to his body. He stood up at his body, and he looked at him, and he said, he killed 7 people, then they killed him. This man is off me, and I am off him. And he repeated for 2-3 times, this man is off me, and I'm off him. Then the Prophet ﷺ actually carried him on his arms and dug a grave for him and placed him in the grave. And then, the story is very symbolic to show how the Islamic teaching and the Prophet ﷺ efforts to get disabled people or people with special needs. This is our obligation, to get them involved within the society and not felt like they are not part of the group or something.
Yeah, I mean, that's a wonderful story, and that's a very beautiful hadith. Or what we can take from it, it's I mean, so many benefits. I mean, the first time I heard this story was from Umar Sulaiman. I don't know if you guys seen the video. He narrates it wonderfully.
Yes.
And
better than me, of course.
No, I mean, you did a good job as well. I mean, every time you listen to it, it's just amazing, and you see like how the Prophet ﷺ dealt with these people, and how he included every single person, and didn't think little of this individual just because he looks in a certain way, or didn't think of little of this individual just because he has some sort of issues or whatever it may be. And we can also see that Julaybib had an issue with his self-esteem, and the Prophet ﷺ in various different situations that you find the Prophet ﷺ dealing with Julaybib, he's trying to raise his self-esteem. And this, what we forget, is from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. We constantly we want to follow the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Well, this is the way to follow the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Help these people. This is the way we follow the Prophet ﷺ. Umar, before I come to you, actually, we're gonna watch a short video, and as soon as we come back from watching the short video, Umar is gonna share a wonderful story with us. So stay tuned.
Ya Allah, forgive a person who performs Hajj And not just a person who performs Hajj, but when a person goes to Hajj and then he prays for the forgiveness of somebody else, Ya Allah forgive him as well. And ulama have stated that performance of Hajj, it opens the doors to barakah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Baytullah has been described in the Quran by Allah, Inna awwala baytin wudi'a linnasi lalladhi bibakkata mubarakan wa hudan lil alameen, as a place of immense barakah.
How you doing, man? Yeah, how's it back? Everything's good, everything. Yeah? Well, alhamdulillah, there's a very important talk in East London Mosque. Yeah. You know, Sheikh Ahmad Ali is coming. Very important talk about the purpose of life. Yeah, I heard about him. You know, he's very good, mashallah. It'll be very beneficial. So try your best to come, inshallah. Give me a call. Yeah. Maybe we'll go together, inshallah. Yeah, inshallah. I'll definitely try to make it. Just give me a call, inshallah. Yeah, inshallah. Take care. Brilliant.
So where are you going? Yeah, I'm just going to collect my bros from school.
Mashallah, are you sure you don't want to have a race, huh?
Are you sure about that?
It's not about who's driving, it's about who's behind the wheel, you know?
Mashallah, that is the spirit.
Alhamdulillah, I know that every day I live in this world, you know, my stages in Jannah are being elevated. So I'm happy about that.
Beta, are you okay?
Go away!
Sorry, you know, Mulana, the students are waiting for you to listen to the sabbath.
Inshallah, I'll be there in a minute.
So, you know, Mulana, you know, how is it being disabled?
Alhamdulillah, you know, I'm still alive and I'm in the ummah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What a great blessing. And sometimes, you know, Allah takes away, you know, the most precious things in our life, you know, so that we ask for His help. And we put our full belief in Him. And Allah tests different people in different ways. You know, some people with wealth, some people with family, and with me He tests me with health. You know, but alhamdulillah, we have to be thankful to Allah, you know, and we have to just make the most of what Allah has given us.
Back to Let's Talk. I hope you guys enjoyed that short video clip. Before we continue this conversation, I want to remind you that this is a live show, so feel free to call in at any time and join our conversation. Also, for those of you who are not able to call, we have our Facebook account open. So go to Let's Talk's page and send us a message live on air, and we will try to address any issue that you raise, inshallah. Now, before we watched that short video, actually, we said that Umar was going to share a wonderful story with us. So I'm going to let Umar just do that. Go ahead, inshallah.
Okay. I just wanted to focus on one point. It's regarding, you know, that I read an article, it's talking about people who have special needs, that 40% of them, they suffer from depression. And why I remember this, because when the brother Idris was talking about that there is no issue about being blind or having like something that they call being handicapped, but the point here is that you're normal inside the Islamic society. You're dealt with as a normal person. So I think that's why the high rate of depression is, especially in the West, and especially also I think in our nations too, because we don't integrate them. And maybe I disagree with the point of like having special programs to them and to make them feel that they are separated from other so-called normal kids. No, they must be with them, and the other kids must be educated not to like feel that these people are different from you. They are like you exactly. And you know how to deal with them. Because of course we know that the point of bullying and the cases of like violence in some schools and so on against the vulnerable children and so on. So if we educate them, and from the beginning we have specialized educators and teachers in the school for these people who are suffering from special needs, we can just prevent all of these problems from the beginning.
Okay, and I mean, Idris did mention a very interesting point that in Islam, these individuals are treated as everybody else.
Yes.
We don't have this differentiation that this person needs. But the very fact that we're doing this episode just shows that there is an issue. Meaning, even there's a difference between that they should be treated as normal people and having facilities for them. There's a complete difference, because facilities for them, it's like, for example, somebody who's old and can't walk up the stairs. You have facilities for them, but do you see them as something different?
No.
Of course not. Or somebody different. You don't. They're treated as every individual, but he needs something to go, he needs an elevator to go to the third floor. So just because you have facilities for them, it's a very important point to clarify that just because we want to create facilities for these individuals doesn't mean they're different. And the reason why we're having this episode, even though, like we said, it doesn't do it justice, is that there is an issue, especially amongst the Muslim communities all around the Muslim world, and even amongst non-Muslim communities alike. But the important point, why are we focusing on Muslims, is that because we constantly claim that we follow the Prophet ﷺ, but clearly we're not. Because the Prophet ﷺ facilitated for these individuals. And we haven't. So this is what I want to slightly touch on, is that why do you think this is an issue in the Muslim world? Why do you think that these facilities are not being made? And why do you think that these programs in schools and the focus on them being like everybody else, or them focusing their energy, or everybody focusing their energy in certain subjects, are being emphasized for young children? Why do you think these problems are there amongst Muslims around the world? Yusuf, if you can start us off, go ahead.
I would say that unfortunately it's a culture of jahiliyyah, it's a culture of ignorance. Because even, as much as we say we're Muslim, and you look at the Muslim world in comparison to the Western world, it's taboo for you to sort of dehumanize someone with disabilities. You go to a shopping center, a normal shopping center, there are specific places where handicaps can park, where somebody with disability can park, specific places, elevators and things that make life easier. But you come into the Muslim world and it's something different. They're called, crazy, or, something, something that's dehumanizing to them. So it's very strange that as a Muslim world, the best example that you find this culture of jahiliyyah within these particular environments. But I even heard a story of a particular culture where some of the scholarly teachers didn't give tarbiyah to the people with disabilities because of the verse in Surah Al-Baqarah, that they're deaf, dumb, and blind, and they will never return to the straight path. So don't give them tarbiyah. They, misunderstand verses in the Quran, and they use that to justify ignoring the need for facilities, the need for teaching, the need to accommodate these individuals, our brothers and sisters in Islam. They use these verses to accommodate them and to shun them. So it's pure ignorance. There's no ands, if, and buts about it. It's pure ignorance, and it's something that needs to be addressed at the local and national level.
And I mean, and that's a common mistake that many people make, is that they misinterpret many verses and think, okay, this is what it means, where that verse isn't even talking about hearing impairment or anything in that field at all. One thing that I just want to comment on that you mentioned was that you don't find these facilities in the Muslim world. And I remember speaking to one of my friends about why isn't there certain facilities for handicapped people in the malls. And he was like, well, it's a culture that they don't want these individuals in the mall.
Exactly.
And I was completely shocked, because they want to keep the mall as, in a certain way, or it to look a certain way. So they purposely leave out these facilities. Not that they can't afford to put them in there. Not that, I mean, the malls that are built here, you know, billions and billions of dollars. A lot of them are even bigger than the ones in the West.
Right.
But you don't find these facilities. Why? Because the people who created the malls purposely want to keep such individuals out of their malls.
And even further, you'll find certain families, they'll have maybe 6 children.
Yeah.
And they'll say, you know, I only see 5 children. Where's the 6th? Well, he has a special need, so, you know, we keep him home. We don't bring him to the masjid. Why? When these people have the purest of hearts, they're not at the masjid backbiting, they're not lying, they're not stealing, they have the purest heart. So if anybody should be in the masajid, it should be them. You know, but you know, Allah Ta'ala knows best.
Before I get to you, Idris, we're going to go for a short break. As soon as we come back, we will continue speaking on this very important topic about why such facilities are not there around the Muslim world, so stay tuned. Welcome back to Let's Talk. Now, before we went for that short break, we were speaking about the lack of facilities for those with special needs around the Muslim world. Idris, we're going to start with you, inshallah. If you have any, I mean, you've been living in Egypt for a while. I'm sure you've seen many things. If you would like to raise any points of examples that you've seen, or why you think there is a lack of these facilities in the Muslim world.
For me, it kind of boils down to one thing, and I hate to sound cliche, but it all that boils down to a lack of understanding about your own religion, Islam. Because this religion builds compassion, it builds, you know, a caring. If you find that you don't have compassion, you don't care, and you're harsh to people, then you're doing something wrong. Because this religion doesn't build that characteristic. If you find yourself and people don't like being around you, something's wrong. So I think it all boils down to understanding and learning and trying to implement and understand the way that Rasulullah ﷺ taught us to be, the way Allah tells us to be. It's a life-changing thing that when you see someone in need, you feel like a hypocrite if you don't help them. If you're to the point where, you know, it doesn't affect you, then you probably have to check your heart. You need to start working on ways to find a close relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To me, it all really boils down to this.
I mean, yeah, and I mean, that works for every single situation.
Yeah, that's why I said I hate to be cliche, but in reality, I think this is the issue that we have, especially speaking about the Muslim world, why it's so bad. Because they tend to have a lot of people who want to say that the religion is a personal thing. It doesn't have a touch with, you know, society and, you know, and the way we live outside. You keep your religion in your house, and outside you're a different person. This is a big movement that we have going on today, where people think that, you know, Islam doesn't, you know, come in all facets of life. In reality, it's deen. It's not like, you know, in the sense of the word religion. It's a bad translation, because it's more than religion. It's a complete way of life. It's transforming, and it should be for the better, not for the worse.
I'm going to read this message that we've just received live from Bukan Muhammad. I hope I pronounced that correctly. He says, I'm watching your great show now. I'm going to ask the importance of positive attitudes in people, especially those who have special needs. But how about those people who are physically healthy, but their attitudes are impaired? And they're the ones that are really in need. Sometimes the impaired ones have more to offer than the healthy ones.
Very deep.
He makes a very good point. Thank you very much, Bukan, for reaching out. And I encourage every single person watching to either call us or message us on Facebook. We get your direct messages here. The iPad is connected to the internet, and we will receive your message as soon as you send it to us. So feel free to message us or call us to join us in this live program. Wa'il, I'm going to come over to you.
You want me to comment on the first part of his question?
You can
how to to keep if let's say I'm a disabled person, how to keep a positive attitude. Okay, I want to refer to chapter 76, verse 2. It like tackles the attitude or the behavior which we should as Muslims or with special needs utilize. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillahir Rahim, Inna khalaqna al-insana min nutfatin amshajin nabtalihi faja'alnahu sami'an basira. Verily we have created man from a nutfa or a drop, a mixture of fluid from a man and a woman. So in order to try him, to test him, and so we made him hearer and seer. So the verse teaches us that for a special need person or special need Muslim, it's a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not a punishment. So the special need or the person with special need or disability, he should maintain a positive attitude. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take one gift from him, definitely he's giving him another gift. For instance, if he's blind, he has other gifts like more sensitive ears, a stronger memory, different capabilities. Even for Muslims with special needs, even the Sharia had gave them some privileges, accommodated their special needs. Like for instance, going to the jihad, as the verse mentioned, for the blind and the lame and the sick, they should not go to jihad and so on.
Yeah, and I mean, and just looking at Islamic law and the way it's designed, it facilitates for those that have these needs. It facilitates in various ways. I mean, even like one thing that you mentioned reminded me, like for example, in Islamic law, if a person is blind, he doesn't have to go to Jummah prayer, right? Because it might be hard for him to get there.
Yes.
But somebody who's not, so this is actually facilitating for those that have these needs.
Yes, sure.
This is not only a sunnah of our Prophet ﷺ, it is the sunnah of God.
Right.
This is what God has sent to the people, that look, I'm facilitating, and this is what we need to extract. We see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala setting rules that, if a person needs assistance in this, I will assist him. I will make things easy for him. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Umar, I'm going to come to you. What's your thoughts on this, about the lack of facilities in the Muslim world?
I just wanted to comment on the second part of the brother who commented on Facebook.
Sure.
When he said about the it really touched my heart about the people being impaired even if they are physically fit. I remember the quote, I think it was about, one of the founding fathers in the United States said it, but I don't remember who, maybe Thomas Jefferson or something. He said that most people die at the age of 25, but they are buried at the age of 75. So I just reached the time of supposedly having energy and having intellect, and I lose hope, and there is no way out of overwhelming problems that surround me. Okay, I give up. So this is the actual death. Because the real life is that I don't give up. So if the person who's so-called having special needs, if he doesn't give up, like we hear of Helen Keller, she didn't see, didn't hear, she didn't talk. And the only connection between her and between people around her was by touch. And she learned by this how to communicate, and even she wrote books, and she has quotes in the internet talking about her, and saying things like the real value of the world cannot be communicated by words, but they can be felt by the heart. And she is one of the examples of people who are having a really physical impairment, blind, deaf, and all of these things. So this is what I wanted to.
What did you want to say?
I just wanted to add something. It's very sad. Like Brother Idris was, talking about Muslims nowadays. Less understanding and less awareness regarding disabled people. I mean, if you look back to the Islamic history, I just have a couple of quick, stories. The first one is for Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, the famous caliph. At his time, he sent to the rulers of all the Islamic states of provenance, send them, asking them, send me a list of all the disabled people, the blind people who needs accommodation. And they did so. In return, he sent them back, an order to have every blind Muslim accompanied by, an individual all the time. And for every two chronically ill or disabled Muslims to be accompanied by one I would say, employee or individual. Another Caliph, Umayyad Caliph Al-Walid ibn Abd al-Malik, he was, I would say, the entrepreneur, or the first one to come with the idea of having an institution or a center for caring, specializing caring for special needs. At this time, he had the first centers where there was doctors, servants, employees, and even he made like monthly allowances for these disabled Muslims, and he told them, here is this is the monthly allowance, so you don't beg people for money.
Yeah. And one thing I mentioned earlier in this episode was that it was a story about that mall and why the people who constructed these malls purposely kept out elevators. The same city, Cairo, if you go back in history, was the first city to offer free healthcare to everybody.
Well,
the first city in the world that opened up a public hospital, and all of the hospital's bills were on the government, meaning it was free healthcare. And this is the same city where hundreds of years later, that they don't want to put an elevator in the mall because they want to keep these people out. It's ironic, isn't it?
It's very ironic.
One of the things I want to touch on before we end this episode is what can we do as individuals, and especially those that are watching. I mean, each one of us is not, the manager of a construction company, but what can we do as an individual to help those that need assistance? Yusuf, if I can start with you.
Well, I'll say this is exemplified in the example that you gave. What's the difference between that time in Cairo where healthcare was free for everyone and now? Is this a change in mentality? So before anything can change, even before we build facilities or programs and things like this, we need to change our mindsets and not pity people that have special needs. And this is an example of a woman who was sitting at a road, at a crossroads, and she had no hands, and she was blind, and she had no feet, and she was sitting at the crossroads and she was smiling, and people would walk by like, what is wrong with this woman? She must be mentally ill as well. So they was pitying her, and they walk by and they'll leave her money, and she was smiling. So someone asked her, woman, why are you smiling? Here it is that you're blind, you don't have any hands, you don't have any feet. Why are you smiling? She said, I'm smiling because of the blessings of my Lord. She said, look at the bounty that Allah gave me. I don't have eyes, so I don't see things that are haram. On the day of judgment, Allah won't ask me about my sight because I never saw anything. I don't have hands, so I never used my hands to harm anybody. I never physically abused anybody. I never slapped anybody, right? I never had feet, so I never walked to anything that was haram. So how easy Allah made this dunya for me. All I have is my tongue to say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, and to say Alhamdulillah, and to say Subhanallah. So I pity you. When you pity me, I pity you. Because on the day of judgment, you will have to be held account for every single thing you touched, and you harmed, and you said something bad about, and everything that you walked to that was forbidden for you. I pity you. So the first thing is to change your perspective. Don't pity people. Look at this individual, they have needs. Okay, we assist them in needs. We have needs too. Perhaps they can assist us in our spiritual needs because they're in the best positions. And we know that the Prophet ﷺ said that the people most tried in this life, who? Are the Anbiya. ثُمَّ الصَّالِحُونَ, and the righteous. ثُمَّ أَمْثَالُ فَالْأَمْثَالِ, and the next best and the next best. So when you find somebody in that particular predicament, know that they're from the Salihun, or they're from the material that the prophets and messengers are made from, that they can withstand such atrocities. So that's all I just wanted to share, man, just to change our mentality, inshallah ta'ala, and by changing our mindsets, it will manifest into material things.
And that's how it starts. I mean, even the most basic act of worship in Islam starts with intention.
Exactly.
Yeah. Idris, I want to come over to you. What's your thoughts on this?
To me, I think it's build upon what you said. It starts with awareness and knowing and understanding first. Because you change yourself first, but then you need to be aware of what's around you. And everyone knows their abilities. You can do something that maybe I can't. I can do something that maybe you can't. Knowing where you can contribute and where you can't, move into try to find this niche. And just to note, also you mentioned the brother Imam Omar Suleiman. Yeah. He has a wonderful initiative that he started in the States called Mohsen. I think it's based out of Dallas, I'm not sure, but it's in the States, where he basically made an entire program on this idea of dealing with special needs. to where he has all the money is going towards different things, whether it's awareness, opening centers, opening hotlines, opening all kinds of things, all basically geared towards helping, especially people with special needs, because it's so neglected by us. So changing yourself and then becoming aware of the situation, that it exists. Don't ignore it. Don't walk by that person who's on the street with their hand out as if they don't exist. You know, be open to it and understand the situation.
And a very good point that you raise is that there are individuals who have organizations that help those people with that need assistance. One thing that we can do, if we can't directly help those that need assistance, we can at least donate to those organizations that are doing good work. And that's very important, because each dollar that you donate matters. It will help somebody in need. Wael, I'm going to come to you. What's your thoughts on this?
My thoughts is, you know, like the main message I want to get across to,
Sure.
you know, for a special need person, he has to be positive. It's a test, not a punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We all born with no sins. I mean, referring to the Prophet, to the hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam in Sahih al-Bukhari and Muslim, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam says that no Muslim is pricked by a thorn. No Muslim is pricked by a thorn or anything larger than that, so that it elevates his, you know, he gained a good deed, a hasana, and wipes out a bad deed as a reward. So this shows that actually the person who is disabled is privileged, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is purifying him, testing him, not punishing him.
It's always important to remain positive and to always have a positive attitude, whether it be that person or the individuals around him. Omar, I'm going to come to you, but we only have about 30 seconds left, so if you can wrap it up.
Okay, just one point, very fast. The best people to know how to serve people with special needs are relatives, because they are known to us only if we have relatives. So if we extend the hand of help, it's going to really make it easier for them, you know.
So that's a very good way to start. It's also from the Sunnah that start with those around you, and then, you know, keep expanding until you reach the greater ends of society. With that being said, I want to thank all of you guys for joining me here on the panel. We had a wonderful conversation. You know, I really enjoyed this, and I hope that you guys also enjoyed this conversation. Don't forget that you can contact us through our social media sites, whether it be Facebook. You can also check out our YouTube channel. And until next episode, may God bless us all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.